this purple one is the orbit of Pluto. Things are not exactly the way they are shown here, but this is so that they can show us how Pluto's orbit is not only more elliptical, they are all elliptical, none of them is exact circle, but Pluto is a lot more elliptical than the others, very much more distorted, which results in Pluto spending different lengths of time, different number of years in every sign as it travels. So in some signs it spends a very long time. In others it spends just over a decade.
Which ones do you know?
I will tell you.
Okay.
So when it spends the least time somewhere is in these points here, when it gets closest to the sun, so it's like the narrowest part of the orbit. It gets closest to the sun, and it also crosses over the imaginary circle or orbit of Neptune. So for a very short period of the whole process of Pluto, what happens is that Pluto comes closer to the sun than Neptune. They kind of switch places. And almost like its energies, Pluto's energies, intrude into another world, into the world of Neptune, and come closer to us and become stronger maybe as an effect to the Earth. And this is when Pluto is in Scorpio, in its own sign. It's called perihelion. Perihelion is when a planet is the closest to the sun. So it travels around the circle, and at a certain point it's the closest to the sun. At another point it's the most distant. So obviously in Taurus, the opposite sign to Scorpio, is when it's the furthest away from us, and it's outside there, outside of space, not inside the orbit of Neptune, and it spends about 30 years in Taurus. So when it was lost in Taurus, it was there for a very, very long time. What happened then is that there were generations of parents and children, and maybe even grandchildren, all born in the same, no, grandchildren no, because it's a bit too much, but 30 years. So that really allowed the possibility of a parent and a child to be born in the same Pluto generation, which was like, the effect of that was to some extent that these two generations were able to speak to each other in a way, like understand each other, what they mean when they talk about the world, the big picture, the times and so on, than the ones after them. And the more we come to our times, the more the differences become bigger and bigger between the generations, and the more the periods that Pluto spent in each sign become shorter. And now it's the opposite trend since recently. But when we were born, Pluto was like at its peak. It was at its strongest place, closest to the sun, closer to Neptune, than Neptune, and so on. Only you, Tatiana, but you were also very close, because it entered Scorpio from Libra, first in the end of 1983. But now I'm going to answer finally your question, Amanda, about the retrograde motion. All of those periods that follow, you see how every one of them will be like this, and I will be giving you like the dates. But these dates are not exact, they're not very accurate. Because what happens is, when these planets enter a new sign, they stay there for a short while, and then they go back. It's a retrograde motion. And then they come back again to re-entering the sign. So if there is an imaginary border between two signs, we can say that they fluctuate there for a while. They go in and out, in and out. Some of them do that, in some of the transitions between signs, they do it several times. And then there comes a time, a year or a month, when it's for the last time. And once it enters the sign, it stays there until it goes out. And these are the first years every time. So actually, as a matter of fact, Pluto went first into Cancer in 1912, not in 1914. And there were people who were born in 1912 and have Pluto in Cancer in their chart. And maybe their Pluto is stronger than the ones after the 14. Who knows? There are such cases, especially if it was just ended.